area, I noticed this guy, even though in this sketch he's very far away from Nichols, in the actual scene, the murder part 2, he's actually right behind Nichols whispering in his ear. Then, he's one of the kidnappers. He goes out on the lifeboats. He's the third one that dies. And, of course, as he's dying, his last words are, "Nichols, sir, shoot the damn things." Lots and lots of ways to figure out that this guy is Samuel Galligan, second mate steward. Note that I still haven't filled in his fate. I'm saving that for a very good reason.
To note, the list I have calls out him having an Irish accent as well.
I didn't notice. And as much as I could, I tried to avoid leaning too heavily on accents or appearances as related to nationalities. I know that's a clue, and I know it's something the game specifically wants me to pay attention to. For example, Circle Cut in Half guy actually was supposed to be identified the first time you can see him, and I know how that's done, but I don't like it. So I won't do it. On the other hand, there aren't a whole lot of people left for this guy to be. We know he's an officer, and we're down to 2 of them that haven't yet been identified. I've got the gunner's mate, Olus Vader, and the ship steward, Zungi Sathi. But this guy is usually to be seen assisting the gunner. It's kind of weird because the gunner and the bosun have so many duties that cross over. I figure I'll just edit together however I can around the technical problems.
Yeah. I just hope it doesn't get any worse.
Yep. So, anyway, as we return from some technical problems, I was identifying this guy here. It seems kind of interesting to me that given the particularities of... So, returning from some technical difficulties, this guy is usually to be seen assisting the gunner, in particular in the Doom Part 6 after the gunner has been blown apart by a cannon. This is the guy who carries a bunch of guns up the stairs and throws some of them to the bosun, who, as far as I can tell, never even catches one. So, in addition to the fact that when I first heard him speak, I thought he was Russian, and given that he's much more likely to be the Polish gunner's mate than the Indian ship's steward, even aside from that, I'm going to say this guy is Olus Vader, gunner's mate. And given that there's a little more information we can fill in.
Just side note, he can be seen helping out together with the gunner in Soldiers of the Sea 7 and helping out near like the storage of the guns in Soldiers of the Sea 4. So you can, there's some parts where you can think, okay, this guy has something to do with the guns as well, in addition to when he brings up the guns in Doom 6.
Well, I saw that. The funny thing is, in 4, the gunner is actually passing the guns to the bosun's mate, while the gunner's mate is opening the door to the hold. And not entirely sure why, because that, as it turns out, seems to be where the creatures are headed for. And it seems like opening the door kind of let them get down there. One of them was killed right in front of the lazarette, pretty much. Well, actually, no, it was on the other side of the deck. But I think they, as well as Nathan Peters and the carpenter, both got the idea to head down the stairs and try to cut them off from below, from opposite sides of the floor. And then in 7, yeah, you can see everybody, but you're seeing them through the wall. It's kind of hard to make out a lot of what's going on. And at the same time, we now know that the gunner's mate is the guy who knifed Thomas Lanky, so we can fill that in too.
We're halfway.
Yeah, I know we're halfway now. I couldn't tell whether we were at 30 or 33, but... So that leaves one officer. And that's him. And mostly where we see this guy is in the Unholy Captives chapter, where he's following along with a stretcher, holding a lantern. And then, of course, when we find that John Davies has had his leg cut off, he's put the lantern down and is assisting with the surgeon's work. So, for a large number of reasons, plus the fact that he's the only officer left, and as we'll see in a bit, there's a pretty conclusive way to determine officers from non-officers, I'm pretty sure this guy is the ship's steward, Zungi Sathi.
Yeah, I think all I have for this guy is basically just, notice that he's dressed like a steward, then identify the other 4 first, and go from there.
Fair enough. Hey, we're done with my first page of notes, so apologies if anybody hears paper rustling as I move to the other page. Because now, we've gone about as far as I could with the amount of information I was able to figure out existed while I was going through some of the earlier parts of the game. Because at the end of the second stream, you said there was one piece of information I was missing that would basically open all of the doors.
Yeah.
And you
specifically,
were quite right.
At one point I said that there's one word that I could tell you that would drastically help you along. I didn't have to tell you the word. You figured it out yourself.
Yeah, you told me that after the stream. I think I was asking... Yeah, we were trying to decide when were we going to get back together and do what we're doing now. And I was saying, give me a couple weeks to try to figure it out. If I get really stuck after a week or so, I might ask you for the word. And I think it was later that evening, or maybe after I had tried to sleep and woke up, that I said the word was hammocks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because the thing that I noticed is, look at how many people are in this scene. And look at how many people are in the scene. We've got the 3 Russian guys over there playing cards, and we got these Indian guys who are awake. Where is everybody? They're all asleep, because it's the middle of the night. They're all in their hammocks. They're still listed as present. Where am I possibly going to get any information about anybody who's asleep in a hammock so firmly that I can't even zoom in and see them? I can't get a picture of who they are. All of the hammocks have numbers on them. Well, except one, but we'll get to that. I compared the numbers to the crew list. We know that the guy in this hammock, who's in the middle of dying in this scene, is Salaman Syed, crew list number 54. his hammock is number 54. Everybody on the crew has a hammock with their number on it, and that's where they sleep. And so, if I can get any information about the people sleeping in these hammocks, then I can work out exactly who they are. This guy is exposed enough that we can see him. He's the other one who died from illness, and his hammock number is 51. I've got that as Renford Raju. This guy is 51 Renford Rajub. The guy who's standing up here has clearly vacated this hammock as it's the only empty hammock in the set. His number is 53. That should be William Wasim. And he's the one who was crushed by falling cargo as they were carrying the mermaids down the stairs. After much ado, I'm ready to identify this guy as William Wasim.
Well, I would probably need the stream.
Oh, you don't have it?
Nope.
Alright, just a moment.
Okay, so yeah, last thing we did was identify Wazim by his number, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's not in the hammock, but it is the unoccupied hammock that he pretty clearly got out of. And then we've got the fourth guy. If we make the fairly safe assumption that he is the fourth Indian crewman, then by elimination he has to be number 52, Abraham Akbar. The problem is his hammock number is X rather than 52. So we either have to use the fact that he's Indian or go by elimination. And right now I've only got enough information to narrow him down to one of 3 people. And in a second I'll be able to narrow him down to one of 2 people, but that's as close as I can get. So I'll leave it up to you. Do we make the assumption for the sake of expediency, or do we go at it in a bit more thorough fashion? Have I lost you? I have indeed. Alright. So, yeah, I don't know what the end result of this video is going to look like. It's going to be chopped to pieces, unfortunately. But we're still going, and the last thing I asked was, do we feel like, assuming that this guy is the last of the Indian crew members, and he is Abraham Akbar, number 52, is that good enough? Or do we want to be a bit more rigorous about it and actually narrow it down directly?
I mean, I feel like going by like the rule of like what we have with the Russians, where like, okay, similar hangs out together. So,
well, the Russians, we've actually got confirmation of that because these three hammock numbers are 45, 46, 47. And these are the three guys who are out of the hammocks and sitting at the table. And I noticed that each of these bunk areas has a table. They're just stowed most of the time, but these three guys are sitting at theirs. So I know they're all the Russians. Yeah. I assumed at first this guy was Indian, but later on I was able to narrow it down more deductively. And I'll still go over that even if we fill him in now.
Yeah, like, I mean, all the information I have is that he is seen together with all the other Indian guys, and so we can identify the other three from their numbers and all that. And so he hangs out with them there, and he's with them on the sketch.
Mm-hmm.
And so what, from what I've seen, that should be enough to take him as one that belongs to them, and so as the last of the Indian guys. Since, on the sketch all the four of them are sitting together in a tight group.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting nervous every time I hear Discord noises.
Yeah, I've been hopping off and on the stream at this point.
Alright. Because anyway, by more deductive logic, what I meant is actually taking the numbers of every hammock that we can see in this scene, and there are an awful lot of them. But there are 4 of them that are just out of view behind the staircase. It's impossible to make out their numbers at this point. But the hammocks that we can't see here, including those 4, are, I think, 43 and 44, which both belong to Topmen, and that guy's not a Topman. 48 and 60, those are the Peters brothers, and that guy's not either one of them. And 50 is John Naples. We know he's not John Naples because we've got confirmation of his identity. So the other 2 that are missing are 49 and 52. So that's as much as I'm able to narrow that down at the moment. But we'll see later on that those are 43 and 44 in the corner, and those are 48 and 49, leaving that guy to be 52. So more interestingly to me, and as I'm thinking about it, there's one other piece of information I forgot to fill in. And this is one that I'm not 100% certain about, but these 2 guys were shot by a cannon, and we now know that it was Abraham Akbar who lit the cannon. We can actually see the lit flint in his hand in his death scene. So, my toss-up was, do I say these were blasted by the guy who lit the cannon or by the beast which aimed the cannon at them? And I figured it's probably the guy who lit the cannon. So I'm going to go with Abraham Akbar for both of these.
In the end, it's both.
Okay.
Both are acceptable answers. I believe for this guy, since you can't directly see his body, exploded is also an option. Or fell overboard, even. If you want to assume that he was blasted and fell outside.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. I did notice that there seemed to be only one body at pretty much any of those times. So, next I'm looking at this guy, number 37, that's listed as Timothy Bootman. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. I don't know how that particular Scottish name would be pronounced. He's a Topmen, and he has this distinctive tattoo of a woman on his right arm. One of the few really identifying marks that you can make out in this scene, and I hate to tell you how long it took me to find the guy who has that tattoo. I went through so many scenes looking at everybody's arms, started going through the sketch person by person trying to find them all. And then I discovered the only other place he appears is The Murder Part 3, where he's getting shot by Edward Nichols. And even in this picture, I think you can see the tattoo of the woman on his arm. This guy is number 37, Timothy Bootman.
Tim Buttman.
Buttman? Alright.
No, I called him Buttman because I'm immature as shit.
Works for me. Then this section over here, we have the 4 Chinese Topmen and, for whatever reason, number 59, George Shirley. We can't see much of any of them, but this guy, number 39, I believe is Jie Zhang. And if you look at his feet here, he's got striped socks. They're pretty distinctive. I went around looking at people's socks. I could only find one person who wore socks that looks like that. And that is the other guy who was decapitated by the Beast in Soldiers of the Sea. In this scene, in Part 1, where he's up on the rigging, couple of other times, I think, when he's loading cargo, you can see his feet, and he's wearing those same socks. So I'm calling this guy Jie Zhang.
Yep. In particular, in my list, I have him as noticing the footwear also in Soldiers of the Sea 1.
Yep. Yeah, I think I spotted it first in the death scene, and then, as I saw him in more places, I went back and looked a bit further. But he's not the only one with distinctive footwear, at least as far as I can tell. Here is number 38, Huang Li, and you can kind of see that he's wearing open-topped shoes. Whereas most of them seem to have these shoes that completely cover their feet. Those are common to most of the Topmen, and in fact, most of the seamen as well. They're wearing these shoes with, 3 little eyelets. But those shoes kind of stood out to me. And the only person that I saw wearing shoes like that was the guy who was electrocuted up on the rigging. So I made this guy to be Huang Li.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so one last thing to do from the information in this scene is we do have the 3 Russian guys here. There's not a lot to distinguish most of them, but if you look at the crew list, the Russians are a bit interesting because one of them, Leonid Volkov, is a Topman, and the other 2 are seamen. So you wouldn't expect them to be in the same place at the same time. And in fact, Leonid Volkov is one of the people that we see in the, working the sail in Soldiers from the Sea Part 1, whereas the other two are the ones that disappeared in the calling. So, the guy who's still alive at that point is Leonid Volkov, and
because it seems to be that the stream is causing the issues.
alright. Yep. So, returning from technical difficulties yet again, it looks like today the stream is just not going to work, so I'm still recording, but McD is just listening at this point. In any case, the last of the Russian sailors and the Russian Topmen is the one who is shot on the stern deck. And in fact, by, as we determined earlier, if I can find her in the list, Emily Jackson. Just comparing her picture to the sketch, she is that person. And this guy is Leonid Volkov, Russian Topman.
So what did we identify him by? I think I missed that part. Was it that he was visible in the scene, like Soldiers of the Sea 1, where we see all the Topmen? He's the only guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he is the only Topman among the 3 Russians that we see playing cards in that scene. So since there's only one Russian Topman, that's who I made him out to be. And there's another way we can tell a bit later on, but that's the identity that I've got for him. And that also means that he is the one who killed Paul Moss with a sword. Because we saw him do it. And that's 3 more correct.
Should be getting pretty close to 3/4 at this point of the total.
Yep, I think the next set of 3 should put us at 45, judging by how much of that cover is filled. Now, at this point, there's still more that we can do in this scene, but it's going to require information gathered from the calling. So again, I'm going to be overlaying video here, rather than, trying to go back through those chapters where you have to go back to 4:4, and then you got to go backwards chronologically. You really want to see this stuff in order, because it's one of my favorite parts of the game. So first off, we got to still distinguish between the 2 Russian seamen. They are Alexei Toprov and Alarkis Nikishin. And here, hanging from the outermost hammock, number 47, that's Alexei Toprov, we see this bag with a pipe sticking out of the pocket. If you look when the second guy is getting dragged into the water in the calling, you can see the bag on the floor of the boat, and you can see the pipe falling out of his mouth. And if we go back to the earlier scenes, he's actually smoking the pipe there. That would be the guy without the beard, and the one who was one of the executioners in Murder. And in the calling, he is the uppermost of the 2 people who disappeared. This is Alexei Toprov. I'm just waiting for confirmation, unless you wanted to just let me go for it and cut in if I do something wrong. Or if the call is dropped again completely.